I did a video on the George Floyd situation a few days ago here on World of Geekdom. And in that video, I promised to do another video, or I said I was going to do another video about racism itself. I want to talk about racism here on this video. And because it's been a topic of discussion for, well, forever. But now it's really kind of, you know, with what's been going on in the world right now, it's really taken the forefront again. And really, to be honest, it should never not take the forefront, because this has been a problem, not in America, not in the United States, in the history of the world, and the history of mankind. There has been racism and prejudice from the beginning. And, you know, all of my life, ever since I first realized what prejudice and racism was, I never really understood why people were like that. Like, I never understood when I was a kid, like, why somebody would not like somebody else based on the color of their skin. I didn't get it. Because, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I was in a very diverse group of children in my elementary school and middle school and high school. You know, I went to a high school in, you know, a low income area. So we had all kinds of different kids there. It was very diverse. And I just never really, I mean, I've dealt with racism in my life because I am Hispanic, I am 1/8 black, and because of that, when people find that out, racist that is, they tend to look at me a little bit differently, right? And if you're listening to this and you're a racist, and you don't like black people or Hispanics or anybody, get the fuck off the channel. I don't want your subscription. And boy, do I mean that. I do not want you subscribed to me, bro. Get the fuck out. Leave. Because, like I said, I never... Let me get back to my point. Then I'll get to what I was going to say. I never understood racism because I never understood why somebody could dislike someone else based on the color of their skin. Now, there's obviously situations where there are stereotypes that have been kind of put out there, you know, and in some ways, satire has kind of taken those stereotypes and made it into humorous, you know, jokes and whatnot. For example, people like Dave Chappelle, you know, he has a lot of sort of racially inspired humor. Chris Rock also, but it's all satire. It's all, you know, done for comedic purposes, and you know, their tone is, of course, not from the perspective of, you know, I dislike white people. It's just humorous observations about how they behave. You know, it's comedy. But actual racism, meaning that somebody dislikes somebody or fears somebody, and really it all comes down to fear over the color of their skin, is just mind-blowingly stupid, ignorant, and also cowardly. It's very cowardly, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute. But you know, all my life, I never really understood it. You know, it's been scientifically proven that children don't see colors. If you put white babies, black babies, Spanish babies, Asian babies together in like a crib, they're not going to, you know, not play with each other. They will play with each other if they get along, you know, or when they're little kids. Racism is something that's inherited, something that is something that's more so nurture than nature. We are not racist by nature. A human being does not come into this world with hate against another race. It just doesn't happen that way. Usually what ends up happening is a lot of the racism, because let me just say this, okay? A lot of people who are very ignorant, who are very, very ignorant, actually believe that racism does not exist anymore, and or that it's only from people over 40, and that's complete nonsense. Where is racism from people in their 20s, 30s, and in their teens still prevalent? And a lot of that has to do with nurture. A lot of that has to do with their upbringing. You know, racist parents tend to raise racist kids. When a parent teaches a child that, oh, Jewish people are this, or black people are this, you know, from a young age, they tend to grow up believing it. And in some cases, you'll have the child sort of, at some point, hopefully, knock on wood, come to a realization that their parents were wrong, and that is the wrong way to live your life. And hopefully that does happen, but not always. It doesn't always happen. It just depends on, you know, their upbringing and whatnot. And a lot of times you have this racism that comes from the parents, you know, especially the ones that are living in a very antiquated type of mentality, that they get it from their parents, and it sort of gets passed down, you know, from generation to generation. But it's not like it's a thing that's in their blood. It's just they sometimes think it's in their blood, but it's not. You know, the big thing about racism, disliking another race for whatever reason, is it is rooted in fear. Because when you really think about it from a logical perspective, there's absolutely no reason to be afraid of a person because they have a different shade of skin than you. It makes no sense. There's no reason to be afraid of a person because they wear different clothing than you or because they're from a different country than you. It is completely, to hate somebody for that, it's based in fear. It's based in fear of having their own sort of, I guess, worldview shook by another person who they deem to be inferior than them, which is, of course, ego-driven, which is all based in fear. Supremacy, especially white supremacy, is a very real thing. Now, that does not mean that white people are all racist, and anybody who tells you that's a freaking moron, because that's not the case at all. But, throughout the different sort of, throughout history, there's been, aristocracies and things like that who have felt that because of the color of their skin, because of their skin color, that they are better than other people of a different skin color. And again, that gets passed down because they want to retain control. They want to retain control of, whether it be political control or in a kingdom or something like that. We're going back years, not even recently. We're going back like hundreds of years, you know what I mean? And they have this really strange fear of another person who sheds the same kind of blood as you, has the same vital organs that you have, they just have a different shade of skin. It's so silly and stupid. It's really stupid when you break it down. Racists are stupid pieces of shit. They really are. Because to have that much fear without even getting to know a person is just unfathomable. Now, there are situations too where you'll have somebody grow up in an environment where they'll have issues with somebody of another race, and then they will stupidly assume that everybody from that race happens to be like that. Again, buying into this sort of generalizing, this stereotyping. And that's really what racism is, the generalization of negative traits. That's what it actually is. You know what I mean? If one person of an ethnicity robs you or lies to you or takes your girlfriend or whatever, if you're really that ignorant to believe that every single person of that ethnicity has the same traits, to me is just, you don't have any life experience, or you just are living in this really strange reality that's not on Earth. And again, it's all based on fear. You are afraid of that person, of a person of that color doing that to you again. So you try to avoid them, or you try to demean them, disparage them, or in some cases even go so far as to hurt them physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, whatever. That's what it comes down to. It's all based in fear, which is why I firmly believe that all racists, no matter who they are, all of them are cowards. I mean, ultimately, their racism is bred from this sort of cowardly inner, pussification, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make any logical sense to just assume that everybody's the same of one ethnicity. No, the reality is that we as human beings are all the same. We all do good, we all do bad, we're all capable of doing good and capable of doing bad. And for somebody to sit there and say, well, this race is better than this race because they do this and they don't do that, you must really be that ignorant. You must really live in some kind of psycho world. And a lot of that is transplanted through their parents and things like that, I would hope that at some point, if there's a kid out there who is raised by racist parents, a lot of times they do rebel, right? And they do kind of early on in their middle school or high school years tend to realize that stupid mentality because they usually have friends of that other race. Sometimes later on than that, I would hope that they realize that even though they might love their parents for raising them and taking care of them, nothing wrong with that, their parents may be inherently wrong in their thinking. You see what I'm saying? I would hope that. But, we've also got people who, if we go to the extreme level here, there's rumors that, and as I'm making this video, I'm saying rumors, because if it came out to be 100% accurate by the time this video goes up, I am not aware of it. Okay, I'm recording this video days before it goes out. But there's rumors that Derek Chauvin was trying to get into the Ku Klux Klan. Now, if you're trying to get into the KKK, that means that you're already a racist inherently. And now you're just trying to belong to a racist group because you're trying to find a commonality with them involving hate. You can't get a group of friends that like the same things you do, like to go out, and play cards or whatever. Or what, you got to go with racists. Like, is that your MO? And to me, it's sickening. And a lot of that, again, is very ignorant thinking. It's very ignorant thinking. And a lot of racists tend to be either overly egotistical or, in some cases, downright stupid. There's usually no in between there. A logical, functioning human being who has at least a mentality, a progressive thought of what the human race is, an existential thought, whatever, a provocative thought of what the human race actually is, can't possibly be racist. If you understand human beings, you can't be racist. If you don't understand human beings, you aren't necessarily a racist, but people who are racist don't understand human beings. Or maybe they do understand human beings and are just fearful of losing their power, losing their control. You know what I mean? That's where the supremacy thing comes in. So it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing, and it's sickening to me that we're in 2020. You would think that by now, with all the interracial relationships, with the fact that we're all like we all have several different kinds of ethnicities and bloodlines inside of us, from mixing the gene pool and Native Americans and different kinds of Europeans and Africans and Asians. We're all mixed up, and the whole world is interconnected with the internet. You would think that racism would be kind of a thing of the past, but it's not. As long as people are afraid, it's going to exist, and it's a dumb reason to be afraid. Like, think about how dumb it is. Think about how stupid it is. Like, racism is stupid, dude. It's literally stupid. And people who are racist, I think, are stupid. I really do. Or at least cowards. One of those two. Usually both. Anyways, that's what I think. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to y'all very soon. Remember to take care of yourself out there.